How's it going, sixth graders? Here we are again in the Kalispell Middle School East band room basement, and this is going to be kind of interesting. We'll give this a try. By now, we're a week into online exclusive instruction. Maybe you found that practicing on your own is maybe less compelling or exciting than you might want it to be. Well, it just doesn't match up to playing with another person. So I know this isn't kind of the actual way of playing with another person. It's a little artificial, but maybe you might get a little something out of you and I playing together. So let's start. We're on page 30 in the Measures of Success book, and we're starting with the theme from the New World Symphony. Now, this is my practice space. It's quite a bit smaller than the band room at KMS. And it's decent size, though. I'd guess it's about, maybe 10 feet by 15 feet. Yours may be smaller or maybe bigger. But when you're playing, when you're practicing at home, always imagine that the space that you're playing in is good sized. Pretend that you're standing in the middle of the stage at KMS and you're playing for a full house. So fill up your lungs, take in huge breaths. Don't be, put off by the fact that there's a lot of sound coming back at you. If you're in a smaller space and you get a lot of echo or not much at all, just play like you normally do. So here goes, theme from the New World Symphony. We'll do it just like we would do in class. I'll count you off and then you come in and play with me. Don't forget, take full breaths, tap your foot. I like to stand when I play when I'm practicing. You might be standing, you might be sitting, but make sure that you've got a nice setup. Music stand. Some sort of a support system for your music so that you're not laying it flat on a table or on the floor or on your bed or anything like that. Have it up so that you can see it, so that you can, it sort of encourages you to stand or sit with good posture, because playing well, as you know, requires good posture, and it doesn't do us any good to practice these things in class if when you do them by yourself you're totally ignoring it or you're just doing it a totally different way. So always reinforce the things that we play in class, or the things that we do in class. Reinforce that when you're by yourself. Okay, so here we go. Tap your foot. Here's your tempo. That's about a good tempo. That's about what the play along tempo is, which we're going to use in a minute. So here goes. Look at the slurs. Notice the phrase length. Get all of those things. Here we are. 1, 2, ready, go. How'd you do? It's always good to do a little self-assessing when you're practicing. In fact, it's really important. So make sure that you always take a moment when you're done playing something and self-assess. Now, you may have noticed, if you were listening to me, here goes with the play along now. So we'll do it one time. I'll play with you. Next time, you all by yourself. Ready?
4.23, theme from the New World Symphony.
that time. Now it's just you. Ready, go. Here comes that crescendo. Nicely done. So let's move on, shall we? We're now on page 31, and right at the top of the page, more about the dot. So it's reminding us about what a dotted quarter note is, what the dot does to the note. Remember, it increases the length of the note. By how much? If you said half of its value, you got it right. Now, we've worked with the dotted quarter note first, but now they have the eighth note first, followed by the dotted quarter note. You might recognize that musical concept as syncopation. Did you say that before I did? Good job. So now we've got Beat Street. So I'm just going to go ahead and find the play along for Beat Street because they're kind of interesting. They're fun. So let's give her a whirl here.
4.24 Beat Street.
How'd you do on that? Now, before we go on, let's talk a little bit about counting in a rhythm like that. Oh, the laundry's done. That's not something you have to think about usually in class. Anyway, Beat Street. So when we're looking at 4.24 and we're seeing this rhythm here, eighth notes, quarter notes, sometimes tied notes, notes that are connected with that little tie symbol. Remember that if you're clapping or playing, you don't re-articulate the tied note. Make sure that you're just extending the first note for the length of whatever note it's tied to. So now let's think about counting a little bit. Been a while. So when we're talking about counting rhythms, we use numbers on the downbeat. If your foot is going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Down would be where the numbers go when you're counting. Down, down, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, obviously, this is all review. You should know that you can take any beat and divide it into tinier segments, subdivisions. Upbeats in between the downbeats. Typically, we count upbeats, and those would be eighth notes, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Now, so how you would count that first measure, look right at it. 1 and 2, 3 and remember, it's tied to beat 4. So I don't need to say 4. I just extend beat and of 3 for another quarter note. 1 and 2, 3 and. 1 and 2, 3 and. Now look at the second measure. it's the same rhythm, because instead of the eighth note tied to the quarter note, they've replaced it with that new rhythm, dotted quarter note. So that takes up a beat and a half, and it fills up that space. So measure 2 of Beat Street sounds or is performed exactly like measure 1. 1 and 2, 3 and 1 and 2, 3 and. Now look at the third measure. Now we've got eighth note tied to a quarter note, but the eighth note is on the and count. 1 and then we have the next eighth note on the downbeat, which then puts that final quarter note, dotted quarter note, on the and count of 3. And then it extends through beat 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 1 and 3 and. Look at measure 4 now. 1 and 2 and 3 and. So now let's do the whole line. Ready? 1, 2, ready, count. 1 and 2, 3 and 1 and 2, 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. How'd you do? Good, good, good. Now, Caribbean Carnival, which is the next one down. Obviously, we've learned that the next line after a beat street is always the same rhythm that you just got done clapping, but now you get to put melody to it. So, look it over. They even give you the counting there. There it is again, the ands and the ones and the twos and the threes and the fours. And you see where they all line up. Music is always printed spatially. What did he just say? What I mean is, you can almost tell how long a note lasts by how much space is after it in the bar. Notice that when they have 2 eighth notes together, that fills up about the same amount of space in the bar as that quarter note that comes after it. That's not a coincidence or an accident. It's always that way. So let's play Caribbean Carnival. If you prefer Caribbean Carnival. Are you ready?
4.25 Caribbean Carnival.
He says Caribbean. Nice. Now it's your turn. 1, 2, ready, go. Did you remember to take the repeat? That sometimes gets past people. So, good job if you did. We'll talk more about counting rhythms in the next segment when we go on page 31. See you then. Adios.